that is getting started now. I'm going to go ahead and get everyone checked in here. So I have someone, looks like an Under Armour hoodie under owner's iPhone. Sir, if you could unmute, give me your first and last name, and let me know who you're representing here today. Yeah, I can't hear you. You have to unmute.
There we go.
Yeah.
Is that okay now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. My name's Benjamin Richmond. I'm the operations general manager at Motor Time Auto Sales. I do all the day-to-day business.
Remind me your name again.
Benjamin Richmond.
Rich.
R-I-C-H-M-A-N.
Did you say Benjamin?
Correct.
Got it. All right. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. I have a Barry Richmond. Barry, you with us? If you are, if you could unmute.
How's that?
That's good.
Okay.
And are you also with the owner on this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I have a, is it Parsh Davis? If you could unmute.
Yes, I am representing the company on behalf of the applicant. And again, my name is Parsh Davis. I am filling in for Cindy Lundy.
Gotcha. And when you say the company, what company?
Amarok.
Is that the fence company?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are we expecting anyone else on the applicant owner side to be joining us here today?
No, sir.
Okay, great. I see we also have Wes Menzel from the zoning department that's joining us. I need to do one more thing before we begin, and that's just to read through our hearing script. This basically will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we will jump right into to the subject matter. So this is the November 30th, 2022 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. The case before us today is case number ZH20220163. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any potential opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. Unless a party has submitted evidence or testimony in the form of writing prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they would then have an opportunity to present after the applicant had presented its case. I will give our zoning plans examiner, Wes Menzel, an opportunity to provide any testimony in addition to his staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony and or argument that was offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. So for our purposes here today, guys, I'll let each Benjamin and Barry Richmond and Mr. Davis, you all can orient your presentation however you would like. I want to hear about the background. I want to hear why you think this is appropriate. I want to hear exactly why you're asking for this relief and why I should grant it. And one or all of you can speak in any order that you want. It's really up to you. I'll then go to Wes. I'll get Wes's take on everything, let you guys respond to anything Wes said. I'll ask some questions along the way. You guys can make any closing statements you want to make, and then we'll wrap it up. After all presentations have been made, I'll close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony. That's generally evidence you want to introduce and consists of statements made by someone who's not present at the hearing here today. In the event of any technical difficulties with Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. All right, the last thing I need to do here is just to swear in all of our witnesses. If you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, really doing anything other than just strictly observing here today, then the zoning code requires me to swear you in. So if you believe that that is you, I would ask that you take yourself off mute now I'll need everyone who's going to be sworn in to raise their right hand and to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thanks, everyone. All right, who's going to be taking the lead here on telling me about the project? This would be either the Richmonds or Mr. Davis.
Mr. Davis.
I can start. So I represent the company Amarok. We are a security company. We install security systems behind customers' existing property to prevent theft and deter crime. It is our understanding that the applicant has exhausted all of their options and they're still receiving hardships and vandalism on the subject property. So they've reached out to us so that we can assist them in securing the site. They're requesting 4-foot variance because the code currently allows for a 6-foot fence. Our system, based on the industry standard, is installed at a height of 10 feet. And so that's the reason we're requesting the variance for the height. Also, we're requesting a conditional use for the electric security portion of the system because it is a pulsed non-continuous current system. And so that's what we're requesting today.
Okay. So one, what has been, and anyone can answer this, what has been the issue with the vandalism and the break-ins? Could you be more specific about what's actually happening on the property and for how long?
I could take the lead on that if you'd like, Parsh.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Benjamin Richmond. I run the day-to-day business here, Motor Time Auto. The reason why we need this to continue the success of our business. We've been here over 20 years.
Is this the Indian?
Yes, it is.
Oh, nice. Great
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah, paddock meat's fine. Anyway, we've had in the past, there's been sporadic crime happening to our lot for the past 20 years, but it's just, we brush it off as just the neighborhood, the times, things like that. But really in the past 2 or 3 years, it's become more, the crime or the vandalism or the theft from the property has become more of a normal thing. We're losing catalytic converters off of our vehicles. That's the main reasoning for us to want to secure the property more. They're brazen. They will cut through a regular chain link fence. They will do whatever they can, and they're in and out of the property within a couple of minutes before really the police or anybody can even attend to the situation. And the catalytic converters, obviously it's on the news. Everybody knows about the values have gone up, which makes the theft more prevalent. And the cost for me to repair the vehicles has skyrocketed if I can even get the catalytic converters. I had an issue where I had one stolen last year, and it took me months to get the converter from Ford because it was on back order from Ford. So I was unable to even do anything with that vehicle for months, which doesn't help my business any. And obviously my goal is to sell these vehicles, not have them sitting around. There was an instance of vandalism last April, which I don't know if you have paperwork on that, where someone came in with a baseball bat and damaged a bunch of my property. Like I said, the main thing is, and I have sporadic thefts of somebody stealing a hubcap or stealing something off a vehicle, probably because they need it for their vehicle. But the main reasoning is, I live in the city. I work in the city. I've grown up in the city. I've lived here my whole life. I love the city. And the last thing I want to do is leave the city to look for other places to do my business where I've been here established 20 years. And I feel like the only way for me to really stay in the city is to protect my property more from these, more frequent current events that are happening. And also for my peace of mind, I can sleep at night. I'm not worried every night that, my camera is going to set off a ding to me that somebody is running through my parking lot, crawling under my vehicles. And I'm not the only one around here. There's other businesses that are, complaining of the catalytic converter thefts, and it's just a normalcy of the neighborhood or of the times. But that's the main reason is I really want to secure my property for the success of my business so I can continue to be here and for my peace of mind. My dad, Barry Richmond, do you have any follow-up with what I said?
I think, Ben, you've phrased it pretty well. It's the other aspect of it is the safety that concerns me. Ben talked about, the theft and the cost and the fact that our vehicles have to sit around till we have them repaired, and that's very costly. But I think about, as his father, the safety of the business. When Ben's there, or visitors or customers, I just want to make sure that the place is safe once they're inside our property.
Okay. Mr. Davis referenced that you had exhausted all other options. What other security efforts or options have you explored and tried?
Sure. Well, we've put up motion lighting, security lighting. We do have a camera, and like I said, these criminals, I see them on the camera, but by the time anything can happen, they're in and out of here in 5 minutes or less. So it's the cameras, the security, stuff like that is irrelevant to these criminals, because they know that how quick they crawl under a car. I've seen on the cameras there's two guys. One guy's a watch out guy, the other guy crawls under the vehicle and slice, and they run away, and the whole crime is done within a matter of less than 2 or 3 minutes. So a camera, motion lighting, anything like that is almost irrelevant in their minds of the thieves. They don't care. They know how quick they can get in and out, and they know that nothing's going to really stop them from doing that. That's one of the means. The chain link fence has been irrelevant because they use the same sawzall to cut the converters off. They use to cut a hole in the chain link fence to get through. So there's nothing that's really going to stop them. That I've used tactics. So that's why we're trying to go this route, to, like I said, again, to keep the business here in Cincinnati and feel safe.
Okay. Mr. Davis, can you tell me more about exactly how this fence works?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And to add on to what Mr. Richmond was saying, our system is safe. And the only way to come in contact with it is to be criminally trespassing someone's system or someone's property. The way our system works, it's installed behind their perimeter fence. So they already have a chain link fence installed. Our system is installed inside the property behind that fence. What happens is, in the event of a breach to their property, our system sends a continuous alert. So what happens is, once it detects a break in that flow, then the monitoring station that's monitoring the site 24/7 receives an alert. They notify the owner, and then once it's confirmed not a false alarm, then the police is dispatched. Our system will, because it is pulsed, it prevents the would-be thief from being able to enter the property. So if they are bold, like Mr. Richmond stated, where they're using the saws and they're cutting through the chain link fence, any detection of any break in the wire from our system, with his system, if someone cuts a hole in the chain link fence, they're entering the property, because our system is going to be behind that fence. As soon as they make that attempt, the authorities are being notified.
Gotcha. And so when I think of electric fence and pulse, I think of like you touch it and you get shocked. Is that what we're dealing with here?
It's a pulse sensation, but it's delivered every 1.3 seconds for a duration of 3/10,000ths of a second. So it's equivalent to a static shock if you were to rub your feet across the carpet and touch a doorknob, or you're walking by someone and they like rub up against you. That's the sensation that you're feeling, but it's a memorable experience. So you're not going to you're not going to be able to just keep your hand on the fence so that you can just, hop it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's not the traditional electric fence that one would think. It's a little different.
Okay. Okay. And is that, is the intensity of the shock, is that something that can be adjusted?
It is rated at a specific voltage, and it is battery powered. So it's not connected to the electrical grid in any form or fashion. And the good thing about that is in the event of a power failure, the property is still being protected because the system operates off of a 12-volt battery.
Gotcha. So is it possible that the shock could, under any circumstances, cause injury?
No, sir. And our system is medically safe, and it's not proven to injure anyone to the point of having them sent to the emergency room or anything of that nature. It's just a pulse that they feel, and if you see my hand, as soon as you touch it, and I've touched the system as well, if you're near it, you might be waiting on something and like you're just gonna knock your hand off.
Gotcha. Okay.
There is no proven risk either. We've had the system tested. It's medically safe. And in comparison to a taser or a traditional electric fence, our system is safer in terms of, health.
Okay. And if they're using a saw to cut through the outside fence, could they use a saw to cut through this one if they don't touch it with their hands?
If they're successful with getting through the perimeter fence and they come in contact with our system and they're successful with that, they're still not going to be able to enter the property, because by the time our system detects any type of movement or motion, the property owner is being notified, or Mr. Richmond is being notified, and he's confirming that there is in fact a break-in. There's an alert that's also transmitted, so the criminal in theory would dissipate unless they're that bold, but we have not had any reports of any theft with the installation of our system in over 30 years.
So
Typically they see the system and they're like, nope.
Gotcha. And so, I guess my question is there a way to have the alert and to have that response level without it actually shocking someone?
The way the system is designed, it's collective. So it's installed. It is pulsing every 1.3 seconds. So unless it detects there's a breach in the perimeter, it's not going to deliver a shock to anyone.
Right. I guess,
or a would-be thief.
So the electric shock has to happen in order for the alert to be triggered.
Yes. So if you because there are wires stranded, if you touch the wire, once that 1.3 seconds passes, then it is going to deliver a pulse. And that's how, once it detects that, then the authorities will be notified.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it cuts down on false alarms. It allows the owner to validate and verify that there is in fact a breach occurring, which is them attempting to get on the property versus having the cameras and the motion sensor where they can look at the criminal and in a flash, they're already on site. Ours is a visual deterrent and it is preventing them from being able to enter the property.
Gotcha. But would it be possible for them to avoid getting shocked by just using a saw to cut through the fence?
No.
So the shock will go like through the saw, even if they don't touch the fence.
It won't go through the saw, but there will, because the system is designed to detect any abnormality. And I apologize about any of the background noise. As soon as it detects any abnormality in the flow of that current, because it's pulsing every 1.3 seconds, it may not shock them because they're using the saw, but it's still going to send an alert to alert the owner.
You know, and I mean, I sympathize, and I've had several of these hearings before with folks that are, you know, struggling with the same issues with theft. And so I certainly sympathize with you wanting to do everything you can to protect your inventory. But I have to consider, you know, this saying a precedent, right? This would more or less allow, and I know in this particular corridor, there's a lot of auto body sales and repair. This would sort of set the precedent that a 10-foot high electric fence, you know, could be permitted on any of those. And so that, you know, all of Vine Street going up through, this is Hartwell,
And
you know, could potentially have 10-foot high electric fences. And so I'm trying to sort of just parse out whether all of this is absolutely necessary, and if there's any other potential security alternatives that could reduce or get rid of the theft.
And I understand the concern there. Our system isn't being installed to allow other businesses in the vicinity to just have them going up and set that precedent. The installation of one system typically impacts neighboring businesses. So because the system would be installed, it would prevent the theft from any neighboring business, where they would leave this business and try and go to the next one. Because now something's being done to prevent that theft, that typically stops all the crime in that area.
Mr. Richmond, yeah, do you want to add
Yes,
something?
if I can add to his comments, I know there'll be signs on the fence everywhere, all the way around the perimeter that identifies the fact that it is electric. I think they're yellow. They're not up
They
yet.
are.
And they'll be notifying whoever's walking by, or whether they're innocent or not, they'll see that fence is protecting our property and our investment in our inventory and our building. And also, there are other businesses in the area within just a couple miles that have identical systems that we want to purchase.
Okay.
Anything to add to that, Ben? I mean,
Yeah, and just a little add to that is I have talked to those businesses, and since they were having a lot of the same issues we're having, and since they've had this installed, they're basically, their crime has gone down to zero. They're not having issues, and that's the reason why I even looked into this. Like I said, there is other alternatives, as you asked. What are some possible other alternatives? Well, I've looked into that, and other alternatives is keep all my vehicles indoors. But to find an indoor storage space like that, is not really conducive to being a car dealership. And it would be outside the city of Cincinnati. It would be in Sharonville or Westchester or Hamilton or Northern Kentucky, let's say. But we're trying really hard. We're my father and I both. He's a natural born Cincinnatian, born on Ravine Street, and grew up in Finneytown. I born in Finneytown, grew up in Blue Ash. I now currently live in Mount Lookout. We love this city, and that's the last thing we talked about. We even looked into that before contacting Amarok. Is maybe we should we looked at the property out in Westchester, and we just both agreed that we really want to stay in the city and continue our business within the city, and that's that's some exhausting of some of our other options of keeping our vehicles safe is keep them indoors and or in a warehouse setting, which is not what we want to do. We want to, I love Carthage. I love my Indian sign. I think it's a special part of the city. Unfortunately, the crime has gotten worse in this neighborhood in the past few years. We've been here 20 years. I've seen it decline a little bit. and I'd like to stay here and show the people of Carthage that we are a viable business that is, you know, maybe a cornerstone for Carthage, showing that the businesses can survive. And you know, we keep our lot clean. I'm out every day picking up garbage and trash, and you know, we keep my vehicles clean and in tidy order. They're not just thrown around like a junkyard. And I'm very proud of the property. And you can drive by my house. I'm the same way with my house. Anything that we have, I have a great sense of ownership, and you know, want the best image for wherever I am. And that's why I'm, you know, really trying to stay here, because I really, the last thing I want to do is leave.
Yeah, you mentioned some other businesses have this electric fence. These are in the city of Cincinnati,
Correct.
and they're in this. Are they on Vine Street?
There is one business about a mile north of here on Vine Street, yes, and then there are a couple businesses on Reading Road, and I guess that would be the Roselawn neighborhood.
Anthony Wayne.
And Anthony Wayne is another business that has it. So yeah, like I said, that like my father said, there's a few businesses around here that have done this, and it's not a visual deterrent. It doesn't make it look like a jail, but I think so lets the criminals know that, hey, we mean business. Stay off our property when we're not open, and you know, and that's really the peace of mind I want, and to keep my business successful. So that's why we're here.
And to add to what Mr. Richmond says, the system is armed during non-business hours, so it's not going to, you know, impact anyone that's there during normal business hours, because this is outside of normal business hours. Also, the system does have warning signs. So to come in contact with the system means you blatantly ignore the warning signs. You're trespassing someone else's property. And like he also mentioned, the system itself, there are other alternatives out there, but none are proven to be as effective as our system. And we have a proven track record of over 30 years of installations for this system across the country. And it does prevent, you know, theft from happening. And I know that catalytic converters is the #1 theft driver. And as he mentioned initially, this has been creeping up. And I know that it impacts the business negatively, and our systems being installed would, you know, shift that. And it would also help him, you know, recover some of the losses that he's experienced.
So you don't believe that a fence that is just thicker, a different design that can't be cut through, you don't think that would be effective?
Based off of experience, typically a wrought iron fence is thicker in design than a chain link fence. And in some areas, we have customers that have those types of fences, and they're more expensive. We install something behind them to prevent accidental reaching through, and it still doesn't prevent it. Our system being installed behind any of the perimeter fences is the only thing that we've come across that would prevent the criminals from entering the property.
If I can just chime in here real quick, I've talked to other businesses. Like I said, I've been in the car business 30 years. We've owned this property 20 years, but I have a lot of friends in the car business, various parts of the city and outside the city. And that they're brazen enough where, other than chain link fence, you know, the typical, like you would see, let's say in somebody's backyard, the wrought iron or aluminum fencing you see, they will cut through any of that. And you know, the thing I also like about this, more than just the deterrent, is the fact that the way this is not chimed into the power grid is that if we have a thunderstorm, let's say, or a car hits a light pole and knocks out power, you know, I was nervous about, I guess it was probably 6 months ago, a car careened off the road across the street from me, took out a power pole, and the power was out all night here at the business. Not only does that make my business pitch dark, because my obvious security lights, motion lights do not work, but my camera system didn't work either. And I was, honest to God, nervous walking in the next morning thinking, what's going to happen to my lot? Because it was vacant, no lighting, no cameras, no nothing. And this, if something like that happened, I'm still protected, you know, if the power goes out or you know, something like that nature. So that's also more for me a sense of safety and security, that I'm not worried if we're gonna have a thunderstorm. Like last night, we had some bad thunderstorms. If the power would have gone out, is that a perfect time for a criminal? If you think, put your mind in the criminal's head, this is a great time to go steal things because the power's out. It's pitch dark. There's no cameras working, no lights working. This is a perfect opportunity to go steal stuff. That's what I would think if I was a criminal. Yeah, I'd be like, this is a great time to do it.
Right.
But this will prevent that from happening because the system is always on.
Okay. One more question, then I'll give Wes an opportunity to weigh in here. Why, with the design and the capability of the electric fence, does the electric fence need to be 10 feet tall? Why couldn't it be 6 feet tall and have the same efficacy?
The industry standard for the installation of these systems is 10 feet tall. And I understand that the system is, or the existing fence is 6 feet tall in height. For our system, if it's 6 feet tall, and I'm using my hands to make a demonstration, the criminal can just put a ladder up and hop over the fence. Ours is elevated to the height of 10 feet, so that prevents someone from easily accessing the property. If they are able to put up a ladder, then they would have a difficult time crossing over our system.
How close are these two fences going to be located?
This one is 6-inch minimum distance, so it's a good distance between, so nothing would accidentally get trapped in between the fences, because I know that's typically a concern. I mean, we have the diagram or the site plan layout that's showing the proposed location of the fence. So exactly where the customer's fence line exists today, our system is just going to be installed 6 inches behind it, and it doesn't change the existing use of the property. However, they, you know, access the property today will not be changed.
Gotcha. Okay. So so you think it'll be at least 6 inches, but you're not sure what the distance between the fences will be?
No, it'll be 6-inch minimum, I mean, 6-inch between. Typically, we do 4 to 8, but in this jurisdiction, we're doing 6.
Gotcha. So would someone be able to reach through and easily touch the other fence?
No, sir, because if you were to put your fingers through the chain link fence, that's probably 2.5 to 3 inches to be able to touch what's behind it. And our system being 6 inches behind their existing perimeter fence prevents accidental touching of the wires. Someone would physically have to have the intention or criminal intent to enter their property to even come in contact with our system. And we also provided some photos of what the system looks like as it's installed, and it's virtually invisible. You see it when you come up to it. You don't see it from riding by the street. You don't really know it's there unless you see the warning signs. So it's a visual deterrent for would-be thieves.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have right now. Wes, did you want to add anything?
Not really. I mean, we just concluded that there were no adverse impacts anticipated based on the proposal. So
Yeah, I'm trying to find the pictures. So you don't think there'll be any visual impacts with a 10-foot fence?
I don't remember seeing a picture in the packet. Let me see if I can.
Mr. Davis, did you include the pictures in the application of what it would look like?
Yes.
I'm just trying to find those now.
And it should be in the staff report as well.
Mr. Sturkey,
Yeah,
When I
The
was
fact
first-
of it being 10 feet tall, the wires are very thin. They're 12 gauge galvanized steel wires, so they're fairly thin. They're about equivalent to what the wires look like on the chain link fence. They're just stranded horizontally. It's less obtrusive than what you would see at an actual prison. So razor wire or barbed wire, this is more appealing to the eye. So it doesn't impact aesthetics or the beautification of the city.
Do you have any graphic you could show of that? Because I can't find it in I didn't realize they were horizontal wiring, but versus a normal grid of the chain link, but wait, here we go.
do you,
Do you have the About Us document?
I
It
do.
says About Us. Okay, the photos are listed
here it
on
is.
that. Yeah, it's on that document.
where is it on that?
That's how it appears. So when you're asking us, where is it? It's actually there, but you can't see it.
So, I mean, in the About Us document, is there a picture of what
It's on page 3. There's a collage of photos. One of them you should see a Penske truck.
Gotcha.
You found it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
see it.
And
So it's
so-
just horizontal.
Yeah. And in looking at the photos, you see the warning signs. You see, if you look closely, you see the wires, but it doesn't impede or it doesn't impact what the site will look like, because it doesn't take away from, what his site is going to look like. Again, the wires are fairly thin, and that's what you could expect the system to look like once it's installed, because it's behind the system or behind the existing perimeter fence.
I can see them on this document. The very
Yeah, that's exactly the
It's-
sheet I'm referring to.
it is. I didn't realize it wasn't a chain link style, but they are hard to see now that I'm looking at it. But what would prevent someone from just like cutting the horizontal wires, the 6 or 8 of them real quickly and then just jumping over? Like,
What happens is, to come in contact with the system, that's when the pulse would happen. And to be able to cut without holding on to something is kind of impossible. If they are successful with cutting the wires, the authorities are alerted. So we're having just a camera and you protrude onto someone's property, you're on, and you've taken whatever it is you need to take or want to take. For our system, once the system is breached, the authorities are alerted and they're already on the way.
so you're buying more time for warning the police or the owner when the breaching happens. That's earlier on in the crime versus the camera notes them once they're already under the car. They're already halfway done, And then is that kind of what, am I interpreting that correctly?
The customer has the ability to know exactly what's going on. Based off of the installation of the system, there are zones. So if there is a detection on the north side of the property, the customer will be notified and can confirm that there is in fact suspicious activity happening on that side of the property, and where they would normally try and flee the scene, the authorities are alerted and they can quickly identify.
I think it's
What
also,
happens
if
when
I
they
could,
see our system, they typically don't even try to enter the property because they see it.
if I could just make a real quick comment. you know, this fence is how I perceive it as, at least, is, hang on real quick. Sorry about that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good day. I apologize for that. It happens in real time. As soon as this fence, like I said, I would think that what I'm thinking, at least, is 99.9% someone sees this fence and they're going to say, I'm not going to mess with it. But let's say they do decide to mess with it. As soon as that fence is breached, cut, crossed, whether they get a little pulse or they cut the fence, it's real time. I'm going to be notified. Whereas a camera, you know, the cameras have a lag time of a couple minutes, and this crime happens so quick that every second is very valuable when it comes to something like this. When it comes to the converter aspect, there's other thefts, obviously, but that's the main reason and the costliest reason, and the worst hardship this business has taken is the converter thefts. I like the fact that it's a real-time notification and not, you know, a camera. You walk in front of your security camera at your house or your business, and I'm watching it on my phone. You know, sometimes it's 30 seconds to a minute before I'm notified if somebody's, you know, I see that at my house that Amazon will drop a package off and I get a notification on my phone and the van's already gone. They've already dropped the package, walked down my driveway and gotten in their van and left before I'm even notified on my camera. So, you know, there's a good solid, at least minute and a half that is critical when a crime is a fast paced crime to begin with.
Definitely.
I have a comment too. Ben, can you share with Mr. Sturkey, like the F-150 that had 2 converters on it? They took both converters. What was the value of that? What it cost us to replace those 2 converters? Because it's not just a few $100s. We're talking thousands. If you can tell them about that truck.
Yeah, that particular truck is also the truck that I had to wait. It had 2 converters, and the one was on a national back order. I had to get new converters through Woody Sander Ford, which is the closest Ford dealer for me. And the one was on back order. This theft happened in, I want to say this was a January, February. I finally got the car able to sell in the middle of August. The converter, one of the converters was in stock. The other one was on back order. So there was 8 months the car just sat here, and the cost was roughly, just for the converters. Now, when they cut these converters, they're not nice criminals. They don't say, okay, we're going to cut right here on these converters and take the converter. They go under there as quick as they can, cut, they're done. It also takes away the electric wiring for the oxygen sensors that go into the converters. So the truck needs to be rewired, new sensors. It's not just bolting up a new converter and you're done. That particular F-150 cost me just under $3,000 to correct. It was like $2,850 or $2,900 to correct after they had to do the re-electric wiring, the sensors in both converters, and the fact that I had to wait 8 months to get it back on the road. That, you know, that's very detrimental too for me as a business, for my money sitting here and no able to recoup my money to progress with my business, to buy another truck to sell it, to buy another truck to sell it. That money was stagnant for 8 months. But I've done a lot of research. I read a lot of dealer magazines, a lot of other magazines regarding the business. You know, the converter thefts are up 30,000% because the minerals that are the minerals, the platinums and the other valuable minerals within these converters has skyrocketed. Converters 2-3 years ago on the black market were worth, those F-50 converters were worth probably $50, where now they're worth $500 to $600 for the thieves. And the fact that now that they're worth that much, to replace them costs me more too, because there's when Ford is back ordered on a converter, they have 200,000 F-150s. And if you get back ordered on a part, that tells you that there's a dire need for that certain part. Why else would a 2-year-old F-150 need a new catalytic converter other than theft? And the fact that it was on a national back order, that kind of scared me, just knowing that many of them are getting stolen off these vehicles, all over the country or world. But you see social media, if it makes the news, the national news. I saw, NBC or something a couple months ago did a whole 2-minute segment on converter thefts. And this was more in the Northwest, in the Seattle, Portland area. But if it makes national news, you have an issue. And, I see it I have a couple apps on my phone that tap into some, police scanners and things like that. And that one's called a citizen app, but it shows different thefts and everything. And I've noticed in the past couple years that there's a ding within a 2-3 mile radius, not catalytic converters all the time, but a strong arm robbery at the Speedway down the street, a car stolen from Speedway down the street, Andy's Cafe, a gun shooting suspect, or 10 people fighting in the street. All these different things that have really ramped up in the past couple of years in this neighborhood, and that's also why I'm nervous, and I'm trying to use this to calm my nerves, to stay here and be happy. But yeah,
let me ask a couple more questions here before we wrap up. So it looks like there's some fencing on the side. I guess what would that be? The north side of the property that's a little bit taller than 6 feet. Is that right? The chain link?
correct.
Is that 8 feet tall?
8 feet tall, and that was here prior to us being here.
Sure. I mean, to Mr. Davis, I mean, is there anything under 10 feet that's effective? I mean, you said 10 feet is the standard. Why not something like 8 feet? I mean, can someone really get a ladder over that?
No, they have varying fence heights. And so again, for the beautification of the city, to make sure that the aesthetics is in place, ours is installed at 10 feet to account for that. There's an 8-foot section. So instead of us having to accommodate for that, that's where the 10 feet standard is at.
Gotcha.
So we would be behind that. Go ahead.
Sorry, if there was 6 feet all around, you're saying that 8 feet would
I'm
be
not.
sufficient? No.
I'm not.
Okay. Could you restate why 8 feet is not effective?
8 feet, again, with their existing fence in some sections being 6 feet, if we install to 10 feet, then that prevents them from having an 8-foot tall ladder, because they could get an 8-foot tall ladder and still hop across the 8-foot fence. So ours is installed at 10 feet to help cut down off of that and to deter the crime from even happening.
Is it even possible to do an 8 feet behind there?
They have 8 feet fencing, so having our fence installed at the same height as the fencing would not be effective.
On the 8-foot portion, but it would on the 6-foot portion.
It would not be effective on either portion if it's less than 10 feet in height. That's the reason we're requesting the variance for 10 feet, because it goes in line with the industry standard. And that's the most effective way that our system works, is at 10 feet.
What happens when wildlife interacts with the fence?
So that's going to be the next point I have to add to that. I know that our system, when people typically hear electric fences, they think of the typical electric fence for animal containment. Our system does not use the same technology, and it's proven to be more safe. So if an animal does come in contact with the system, then we haven't had that situation. A bird sits on a power line and nothing happens, and our system would not negatively impact an animal as well.
So it doesn't shock them?
An animal, no. We don't have any reports of an animal landing or being able to come in contact with our system, because again, our system is installed behind the existing perimeter fence. And just like a human wouldn't be able to accidentally come in contact with our system, an animal wouldn't either. So it is proven safe for animal use as well. And it's medically safe unless your intention is to criminally trespass the property. That's when you would come in contact with the system.
Gotcha. So birds don't trigger the system generally because they don't weigh enough.
The way the system is designed, our system has alternating wiring, and it's shown on the site plan as well on sheet 3. So the top wire and the bottom wire are not powered. So if an animal accidentally sits on the top wire, nothing would happen to them.
Okay. And the last question I have was for the Richmonds. You mentioned some other businesses that have this. Do you know specifically which businesses they are, or specifically where they're located in the city? I know you mentioned Anthony Wayne and Reading Road and a mile up on Vine Street, but do you know specifically what those businesses are, or what their addresses are?
I don't know the addresses of the business. The businesses on Reading Road, I drive by it all the time. One, and I don't know the name of the business. Being that I grew up here, I know what the old business was, the old Frisch's in Roselawn. That's now a car dealership. That's one of the businesses, but I don't know the name of the business. And the other one used to be the old Arby's on Reading Road. That's now, it was demolished, and now it's a lot. And that's the other business. But again, I don't know the names of the business or the addresses.
They're both in Roselawn on Reading
They're
Road.
Roselawn on Reading Road.
Okay.
South of Galbraith, north of Summit. So it's in between that block of Reading and Summit, across from the old Key Bank building. That's now something else, but I'm a landmark person. That's the way I've always been. But the business that's right up the street from me is the old Jake Sweeney Smart Mart, just south of the Ronald Reagan Bridge, pretty much around the border of where Carthage and Hartwell come together. I know Carthage and Hartwell are divided by the Mill Creek, and they are just to the north of the Mill Creek. So I guess they might be considered Hartwell. I'm not sure 100%, but
That's on Vine.
it's on Vine. Yeah. It's probably the 8100, 8200 block of Vine potentially. And then the other business, which is where I really got a lot of information, is the OKI Auto Auction over off of Anthony Wayne. It's the auction you see from 75 just before the Haddock Road exit. Before I owned this business or had this business with my father and I actually worked for the owner of that auction. So I have a good relationship with him, and I really sat down for a long period of time with him to ask him about this fencing, because since he had a lot of thefts from his auction or from his parking lot converters and thefts and stuff, and he explained to me, since he's gotten this system, the crime is zero, basically.
And that's the OKI Auto Auction. You're saying that also has the electric fencing.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
David, I have
Okay.
one quick question. The spacing between the horizontal wires at the top looks like it's larger than at the bottom. What's the spacing between at the top? Is that
It's 8-inch between each wire at the top, and it's a 4-inch spacing between the first section of the wiring.
and I'm just asking that to kind of make a distinction between a chain link fence, which is what I kind of thought this all was, but it's not. It's just the horizontal wires with 8-inch spacing at the top half of it. So,
Yes.
thanks.
You're
That's
welcome.
And that's why it's visually appealing, because you really don't recognize it just driving by or walking by. My son had to point out the wires over at OKI. I didn't really notice they were there. He said, "Look there, look closely, and you'll see this thin wires." And that was, of course, above the chain link. You see the chain link, but you're very hard to see the electrical wires.
And that's the reason they're horizontal. If they were, and that's the way the system is designed, any other direction, and someone could, in theory, try to be creative. And so the horizontal wiring is to prevent that from happening.
Guys, I have another hearing at 11 o'clock. I'm going to give you an opportunity here to provide any other statements in closing or otherwise before we adjourn, that you haven't shared, if you'd like.
I can speak to the customer has provided crime incidents. They've reported these incidents that have happened within their businesses. I know that it's a great loss for the business. Again, they've expressed that they want to remain in the city. This is the way that they can keep their employees safe, keep their property safe. They want to secure their property as well. Our system is proven to be the most effective crime deterrent on the market. It's effective, it's medically safe. Again, I know the height of 10 feet was a concern, but that's the industry standard, and it's what's proven to make our system as effective as it is today. And regarding the electric portion of it, as Mr. Richmond stated, and as I stated as well, our system is battery powered, so it's not connected to the electrical grid. It's not a continuous current, it's powered by a battery, which keeps the system functioning in the event of a power outage.
And I'd just like to just add real quick with what Parsh is saying is our business. It's not about, you know, he mentioned keeps employees safe. We're a small business. I'm the business. I'm the employee. I'm the title clerk, the sales guy. I do everything the day to day. My property owns the business. So it's not like this could get in the hands of somebody, you know, a random employee wanting to test it out, let's say, and play jokes or something. This is a very serious business. It's just, I'm the only one here. So, you know, my safety and security, I have no one sitting here next to me that could help me if I were to get, you know, burglarized or have somebody come to the business. This is, you know, if I get woken up at 4 a.m. with a breach of a fence, guess who has to come here? It's me. It's not an employee or a sales guy or anyone else. You know, it directly impacts me 100% because I'm the only one here. I open the business in the morning. I close the business at night. And that's my biggest concern is it's all about me and I want to be here.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and we'll leave it at that. I want to thank you all for your time, your testimony here today. I have to say that I mean, you could probably tell I was a little bit skeptical coming into this to this hearing because I've never dealt with one of these before, this particular fence system. But I think you guys have made some good arguments. What I'd like to do, I mentioned at the beginning of the hearing that it typically takes 2 weeks for the decisions to come out on this. So what I'd like to do is spend a little bit more time with the information that you guys have shared with me today so that I can review it. What I do is when I make a decision, I put it in writing in a formal decision piece. And if the application is approved, well, after I finish that decision, I put it into a PDF. I email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So you all will have a copy of it in your email, really just moments after it's complete. If the decision is approved or the application is approved, you can immediately start working with Wes to get the permitting to move forward with it. If for any reason it's denied or any portion of it's denied, you have 30 days to appeal that decision if you would like. Let's see. Any questions about any of that process stuff?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, again, I want to thank you all for your time and testimony. And like I said before, I am sensitive to the theft. I hate to hear that. And I really hope that, that you're able to find a solution that works and is effective. And I'll take a serious look at this and have a decision out to you guys within 2 weeks.
Thank you. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all. Take care. Have a good day. We are adjourned.
You do.